If you have ever experienced a spiritual healing, then you have experienced the activity of the Christ in your mind or body. If you believe for a moment that this experience of the activity of the Christ is limited to the area of your mind or body, it isn't that the activity of the Christ is limited, but that your concept of it is limited, and you yourself circumscribe and limit this activity. If you can agree that the activity of the Christ has functioned in your mind or body to remove the discords of sense, you should be broad enough to admit that there is a possibility that the same activity of the Christ realized would function in your home or in your business. Should you ever witness the activity of the Christ restoring harmony in your home or in your business, then of course you will be better prepared to say, where then is the limit of the activity of this realized Christ? And step by step you will be led to apply this realization of realized Christ to every circumstance and condition that reaches your consciousness, so that if it happens to be an ugly report on the radio or in your newspaper, if it happens to be an evidence of sin or sickness in your community, or infection or contagion, you will bring to that situation the activity of the realized Christ. As you witnessed the realized Christ in action, performing its function, not merely as close to you as your body, but as far away from you as all around your community, then you will understand that this activity of the realized Christ can permeate the entire universe, dispelling the causes of sin, of sickness, of poverty, wiping out of human consciousness false desires, false appetites, false ambitions. Ah, yes. Yes. If you, by any chance, should have an occasion to realize Christ for the purpose of dispelling fear in yourself or one close to you, you should be encouraged to meditate for the experience of the realized Christ, to dispel fear in the human consciousness of your whole community, city, or nation. Watch the miracle in yourself and in your families as fear disappears out of their thought, out of their consciousness. Watch the miracle of living that takes place in you as fear disappears and never more appears. As you learn never to fear person, thing, circumstance, or condition. Watch the miracle. It is a miracle. When there is no longer fear in world consciousness, there will be no wars, there will be no unfair competition. All of these discords, greed, lust, anger, false ambition will disappear with fear, with the disappearance of fear. Fear is the basis of virtually every sin that man can commit, personally, nationally, or internationally, individually or collectively. Fear. Fear is the basis of his wrong actions. Take fear away, and there is no occasion. We fear a loss of somebody or something. We fear a loss of something we value. We fear a loss of our property, or nationally we fear a loss of the nation's property. We fear restriction to our freedom. We fear restriction to our economy. Fear, fear, fear. The activity of the realized Christ dispels fear in your consciousness and mine. The activity of the realized Christ will dispel fear in the consciousness of your entire home or your entire business. The action of the realized Christ, the activity of the realized Christ, will dispel fears in communities. But there must be the activity of the realized Christ, and in this age, it is you and you alone who are responsible for that, because there are no teachings at the present time anywhere on the face of the globe teaching the need for the activity of realized Christ. There are plenty of teachings teaching a blind faith in some God or Christ. There are plenty of teachings claiming that Christ can be made active in your personal experience. But I say to you that only the activity of realized Christ will provide for you freedom. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, where the realized Lord is, where the actual consciousness of the Lord is, there is freedom. Spirit and consciousness are synonyms. So where the Spirit of the Lord is means where the consciousness of the Lord is, where the conscious awareness of the Lord is, where the conscious activity of the Christ is, there is liberty. There is freedom from fear, freedom from desire, freedom from sin, freedom from lack and limitation, freedom from disease, freedom from all the ills of the flesh. Only where the activity of the realized Christ is, and at this time it is you and I who must engage in this daily activity of realized Christ, and then watch what the next 5 years brings to human history, and see if we have not changed some circumstances locally in one city or another, one state or another, one nation or another, changes that cannot be accounted for any other way except by a change of consciousness. What are they telling us about Russia now? There's been a change of heart there, a change of spirit, a change of consciousness. Let's hope so. If it hasn't been, it's going to be. If it hasn't been in Italy, it's going to be. If it hasn't been in South Africa, it's going to be. If it hasn't been in the south of the United States, it's going to be. Wherever there is the recognition, the realization of the activity of Christ, there will be liberty. Liberty experienced, liberty known. That's the message of the infinite way. That is the mission of the infinite way. It begins by realizing the activity of the Christ in your consciousness and mine, so that you and I may be healed of our physical, mental, moral, and financial discords. Then it picks up there and takes over family life and says the activity of the realized Christ in your consciousness and mine must be 11 in your home and in your business. And then it goes on from there and it says that the activity of the realized Christ must go out into your entire community, into your capital and labor relationships, into your local government relationships, wherever there are affairs of this world to be met. And why should it not be possible that our presidents and our prime ministers and our governors and our senators and our legislators, why is it not possible that they should become interested in the spiritual activity of religion? Is there any limit to this activity? Is there any reason why it should not affect government officials, medical officials, educational officials, as it has affected us? If it has touched your consciousness, why shouldn't it touch your neighbor's consciousness? If it touches your neighbor's consciousness, why not your governor or your senator or your legislature, your prime minister or your president or mine? Why not? Why not? Are we not as they are? Are they not as we are? Are we not men and women as they are? Are they not men and women as we are? And if we can be touched by this activity of the Christ, so that we are willing to die daily for each other, to human sense, that our spiritual natures may be reborn? Shall we limit this activity of the Christ and say it cannot come nigh the Hitlers, the Stalins, the Mussolinis or Roosevelts of the world? Of course it can. Those men were only prototypes of the Genghis Khans and the Caesars of old. They were only prototypes of the middle-aged popes. And these men who are in power today, who seem to not follow the spiritual life, are they not but prototypes of our four horsemen of the 1930s? Certainly. Certainly. And we have come through all of these thousands of ages, thousands of years, on an ascending scale of spiritual consciousness until this day has risen, where all the way from New York around the globe back into New York, and from Canada all around the globe through South America and back up into Canada, there are people like you and me actually susceptible to the activity of the Christ. And if it can happen to us, it can happen to those in high places and low places until that day arrives when His kingdom will be established on earth. That's the vision of the infinite way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been a most beautiful, beautiful experience. And I feel now that with our 24 hours covered around the globe, that we're going to have a wonderful few years of grand work to look forward to with these daily meditations, if for nothing else than to witness that there is a Christ, and that Christ is with us, and that Christ functions on earth today as it did 2,000 years ago, as it did 3,000 years ago with Moses. We will not be Hebrews and say that Christ the Messiah has not come, nor will we be Christians who wait for the second coming. But we will be whatever a non-Jew or a non-Christian is who says Christ is here and now, and the realization of Christ is the salvation of the world. Thank you.